Welcome, everyone. It's 1:31, so we'd like to get started. I love that there's so much conversation going on. Thank you all for coming to the 2026 Galiano Conservancy Annual General Meeting. For those that don't know me, my name is Chezzy Milner. I'm the Executive Director, and it's great to have most of the chairs filled. Thank you so much for making time on a beautiful June Saturday. Before I pass the floor, before I pass the floor over to our chair to start the meeting, I just wanted to acknowledge how privileged we all are to live here on Galiano Island, or what's now known as Galiano, on territory that has been stewarded and home to many Coast Salish, Alcomino speaking peoples who have traditional rights and responsibilities to this area, and who have stewarded it since time immemorial and continue to live here. And I wanted to really highlight that wonderful event last weekend on National Indigenous Day and thank many of you who went to that event. And it was great to, I actually unfortunately was not able to make it, but I've heard wonderful things about the event. And I hope that that will become a way that we can annually celebrate Indigenous culture that is alive and well here in the Gulf Islands. So I'm going to pass the floor to Nancy Wilkin, board chair, who can call the meeting to order. You can use the gavel if you want.
Can I? My name is Nancy Wilkin, and some of you may know me as Sunnyside Flowers. And I am your chair of the Galiano Conservancy Association. And it just brings me joy and pleasure to call this meeting to order. So our first item of business is to pass a motion to approve today's agenda. And may I have a mover who can vote, and a seconder, please, to approve the agenda for today. And we are having minutes recorded.
Before we vote, I just want to say we're doing things a little differently this year. So we do have voting cards for those of you who are members in good standing. If you feel you are a member in good standing and you were not issued these, please see our team at the start. Raise your hand, I can come find you. This is a no vote, and this is a yes vote. So essentially go for the dollar paper if you're agreeing, go for the bright paper and make yourself known if you are disagreeing.
And the agenda is up on the board if you haven't had a chance to see it previously in the notice. And so I have a mover, Blake, and a seconder, please. Second. Holly, thank you very much. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor, raise your hands. Thank you very much. Anyone opposed? No hands raised. Thank you. Tick. Now, the next is, hopefully you've read the minutes from the 2025 annual general meeting. And our next motion is to approve the 2025 AGM minutes. And so again, I'd like someone to move that motion and a second, please. To move, thank you. Great. And a seconder? Lisa, thank you very much. Any discussion on the minutes? We're so thankful that someone takes minutes for us. And this year it's being recorded as well. Okay, all those in favor of the minutes for 2025? I see yeses. All those not in favor of the minutes 2025? And I see no hands raised. So we have approved the minutes from 2025. Now, my next order of business is the chair's report. So again, I would first of all, as the chair, like to thank my vice chair, because the deal here is that actually Reese is a co-chair, because quite often I'm taken away on business and Reese just steps right in. So I was recently in Ireland, and I have a very fun we gift for you.
Oh.
And of course, Risa chaired the meeting because our plane left the morning of the board meeting. So I would like to thank all of the volunteers that are here, all of the staff. I would like to thank all the donors. My goodness, we are totally dependent on you. Thank you to all of our donors and all of our supporters. Board members, interns, we've got summer students this year. We've got new staff this year. So it's really a pleasure to be the chair of this board. Some of the highlights from this past year. Quell Cleo, restoring the balance. My thanks to Bobby Joe for that pronunciation. 2025 was the first year of this project, a solid framework, respectful engagement and reconciliation with the Indigenous people of Galiano and beyond. The sustainable food systems, 450 participants at workshops over this past year. The education program, I've got goosebumps, 1,400 participants in the education program. And the restoration program, thank you, 5.5 hectares of wetland and forest ecosystems restored, enabling us to be a leader in conservation. Another success, and Emily, our board member, will speak to this a little bit later, was the completion of our strategic plan. We've got our North Star, we've got our goals, we've got our objectives. The staff have work plans aligned with those goals and objectives. So that plan will hold us in good stead to 2030. And again, this year, we saw a successful partnership grow with the University of Victoria, thank you, Eric and Deborah, and ourselves over creating an infrastructure plan for the potential for new education facilities, for new facilities, maybe outdoor classroom, ideas for this whole area, and just as importantly as where it's maybe suitable, where it's not suitable as well. So it is a plan, and we'll be sharing that soon. In closing, I would like to thank our directors who are leaving the board. Sheila Anderson.
That was last year.
Oh, Suzanne, that was last year, Pearl. And many years of service. Doesn't hurt to thank them again. And we are truly grateful to have new members who have been with us for the last year. They stepped up last year and they've been on the board. Tahira Rockefeller, Michael Kiefer, and Blake Davis. A board member who is stepping down, and she's not here physically, she might be online, is Julie. Such significant contributions, and she partnered with Emily for the strategic plan work. Dedication and positive impact on the Galiano Conservancy Association. Our thanks to them, and our thanks to new board members being elected as we're here. Thank you very much. Let's begin. The next item is Chessie and the financial.
Yes, Sid Bell's here, our treasurer.
Yes, it's here.
There. Did you want to come up, Sid, or do you want to leave it to me?
No need. I did look at them.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I got them to Sid quite quickly. Sid is a wonderful treasurer, but he didn't get much time to review these. They were quite last minute. Can you go to the next slide, please?
You like these slides or the?
These slides. Yeah. So on the back of the annual report, if you don't have a copy, there are copies here. There's some on the side table. I might have put it on the back. But you can see that our revenues outnumber our expenses, which is positive. What you'll also notice is that there is no land acquisition to somewhat complicate the finances this year. So it was more of a conventional year. The last 2 years, we've been very lucky to have protected new lands on Galiano, and that made the finances somewhat more convoluted than they are this year. It's quite clear how reliant we are on grants and donations, and you can see that earned revenues are also very significant. And wage subsidies allow us to offer a lot of people starting out their environmental careers, summer jobs and sometimes fall jobs. from a look at our expenses, you can see that projects and programs are by far the largest type of expense. And that's been consistent for the last few years that it hovers at about 3/4 of all expenses. Our expenses are quite a bit higher this year than last year. If you go to the next slide. And you move the little window at the bottom. Our expenses are higher this year than the last couple of years. And the reason, it says total revenue up there down there, but that should actually say total expenses right here. It's higher because we have the new Restoring the Balance project, as well as very large restoration projects that have been quite expensive. But again, the fundraising and development portion of our budget has remained very constant. And core operations are somewhat artificially higher this year because in 2025 we ended up paying for 2 years of insurance. Because of how things worked out, they just all fell within that calendar year, and we prepaid for some of our other software expenses. And so core operations were actually quite close to the last few years as well. It just prepaid, and we paid a little bit less in 2024 than we might have otherwise. If you go to the next slide for me. If you look at the actual financial statements in more detail, you'll see that grants, while smaller, while dwarfed compared to 2024 when we protected the Talking Trees Nature Reserve, grants were the highest they have been in any non-land protection year. And so we were very successful with grants, thanks to the efforts of staff and those that help with those applications. If we go to the next slide, we'll just drop this down. Donations were also notably higher this year, thanks to a very generous legacy gift that a longtime supporter left the organization, and that will be going into the general operations endowment that is held at Vancouver Foundation. So currently, it is in our general fund, and it is the reason why we have an excess of revenues over expenses. But of that 176,953, 136,000 of it is going to be added to the operations endowment at the Vancouver Foundation. Another significant portion of it is the 50,384 that we received from TLC, the Land Conservancy, and this is the final installment of contributions from TLC for a pledged gift that they were not able to fulfill due to their bankruptcy, and so they were successful in selling the unused development rights to Akazi Gardens in Victoria and have then distributed those funds to their creditors. And so this is the final installment of that payment, and this 50,000 will be added to the MLC Land Stewardship Fund as well. So with those two additions to our endowments, you'll see that actually, if you add those two numbers up, it exceeds our net revenue, but only because of amortization. So essentially our costs and expenses are balanced when you take out the amounts that will be added to endowments. And if you go to the next slide, and actually, Lauren, you had a question from the crowd?
What percentage of that original grant that TLC was paid off? What percentage did we actually receive? Do you know?
It depends what you count and what you don't count, because they also directed another gift to us. And so if you assume that we wouldn't have gotten that gift had the original gift come through, then they have directed almost all of the original gift to us. If you assume that we would have also gotten that other gift, then much less. So it depends how you do the math. But we were credited as much as any of their other creditors, and I think we have to take what we can get and move forward from there. But yeah, this will be the final installment from that. Interest income was significantly lower this past year, just from a change in the markets. And so we're looking at ways to address that through our investment advisory committee. But that is one reason why that number is lower. If you can slip down again. Contractors and consultants is much higher. Again, this is due to restoration work and the Restoring the Balance project, which involved hiring a lot of professional fallers and other experts in their field to move those projects forward. And it's all grant funded. One more. The other thing that stands out is insurance licenses and fees are much higher. And again, this is because in 2024, we didn't pay for 2025 insurance. Instead, we paid for 2025 and 2026 insurance in 2025. So this discrepancy is somewhat artificial. Next slide. Accounting and legal fees is much higher in 2024 than this year because that was a land acquisition. So that 19,000 is more typical. So keep going. And again, if you look at the difference in expenses from this year versus last year, the main discrepancy there is can be tied to contractors and consultants and the very ambitious restoring the balance and restoration projects that took place in 2020. Next slide. Here is a statement of our financial position showing that we have significant more cash than at December 31st than we did in 2024. But if you go down to the above tangible capital assets there, the sum of assets, you can see it's about 300,000 higher, and much of this is balanced out by deferred revenue, and the difference is then that 176,000. If you go to the next slide, 176,000 excess of revenue over expenses, which is primarily two things: 134,861 legacy gift that will be added to the GCA endowment, and a 50,000 MLC endowment from TLC. Any questions about the financial report before we vote to approve it? Yeah.
Where does the wage subsidy come from?
A number of sources. So we've been very successful with Canada Summer Jobs. We also do our best to apply to a variety of other wage subsidies. And so last year we applied to the Canadian Parks and Recreation wage subsidy. And that helped us co-hire someone with the Galliano Club to do restoration work not only on our lands, but also in Block Park. Remove a lot of room there. We also have applied to Eco Canada a number of times, which is a distributor of federal wage subsidies. So primarily it's federal source wage subsidies. Any other questions about the financial statements? Then I'd like to table a motion, if you go to the next slide, to adopt the 2025 GCA financial statements. Someone would like to move that motion. Sid, and seconder, Suzanne at the back. And then all in favor, blue cards, and you'll have a chance to vote against with your red cards if you'd like. So see a blue, and then any red cards. Thank you very much. It passes unanimously. The second motion up here is one that we do every year to try and lower our overhead. So as many of you know, an audit is very expensive, whether it's a personal audit or a business audit. And so doing audited financial statements is an expense that we try and avoid. And so we ask our membership to help us to avoid that by passing this motion on an annual basis. So this is something we've done for as long as I've been ED and earlier. And so if anyone would like to move the motion to waive the audit requirements when preparing the 2026 GCA financial statements. Thank you, George. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Mike. And then all in favor, please raise your blue cards. Any opposed, please raise your red cards. And it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. What's next on the agenda?
We're going to call it reset.
Wonderful. So I call the Vice Chair Risa to the floor here to lead the election of directors. Thank you, Risa.
So, hi, everybody. This is the election of new directors, and we do this every year. We currently have 10 board members, and all are appointed for a 2-year term. And then should they agree after the 2 years to sit for another term, we then vote on it again. So there's no like lifetime appointments. And this year, we're proposing to increase the number of board members from 10 to 12. And the reason for that is that it is work to be on the board. And we have a lot of committees, and board members are expected to participate in those committees. And so We're gonna try having a little bit of a bigger board. There's always pros and cons to too many people and not enough people, but we're gonna try that for this year. And we also have one board member who's on leave until September, so that gives us 11 until September. And so, I will say, like, if any members are interested in being on the board, it would be great to hear from you. So you should approach any board member here and say you're interested, and we'll talk to you, tell you what it entails, and see what your interests are and what the fit is. And as long as you are a member in good standing, you can be on the board. Now, to be on the board is a little bit different than voting for other motions. You have to have been a member in good standing 3 months before, so that's in our bylaws. So for this year, it would have been March 27th, I believe, right? Today's the 27th, yeah, March 27th. So anybody who's recommended was a member in good standing by then. So the board members who are not up for re-election, so just so you know who we are, there's Nancy Wilkin, Emily Gonzalez sitting back there, Mike Keeper over there, Leigh Dennis, who's over there, Tahira Rockefeller, who's the one who's on leave, and me, Lisa Smith. One board member whose term is, pardon, Lorraine? Who? And Lorraine? Oh, Lorraine.
Hello.
My God. My favorite person. And Lorraine Stefan. Over there. Thank you. Julie Gardner, as was mentioned by Nancy at the beginning, has been a long-term board member and has been very influential and worked very hard in this organization. She's been on many committees, policy development, the new strategic plan, the Indigenous Relations Committee. Pardon? HR.
Oh, sorry.
And Human Relations, and much more in terms of her participation on the board. So she will be very sadly missed. We're hoping that she'll stay on one of the committees. But she hasn't committed one way or another to that yet. This year, so 3 current board members are up for re-election, and that is Holly Schofield, who is there, and Sid Bells, who you've already met, treasurer, and George Matheson, who's over there. Madison. Oh, what did I say? Madison, God, it's because I didn't sleep last night. Okay, the board is also recommending 3 new board members who've never been board members before. And some of them will introduce themselves, others I'll introduce depending on preference. So I think I'll start with Derek Lacroix. Derek will introduce himself.
I'll introduce myself.
You can introduce me. Let's see, what did I say? Lisa asked me to be on it, so I had to say yes. But I was thinking about it. I've had a place here for 26 years, and I've really used this. We've go to the walk along, we use the trails, we bought from the sustainable thing. We come to the AGM and listen to the good speakers. I'm looking forward to the speaker later. And I thought, I've really taken a lot from this organization, and so I'm happy to be able to give back. I now, for the last 5 years, been full-time. We now reside on the island. The previous, we were just weekenders. I'm, been a lawyer for 50-something years, but also a counselor. I built a couple organizations. My wife and I, particularly my wife, built it. I have a charity that's called Be the Change Earth Alliance, which does mostly environmental and social justice educational programs in the school system. So it's aligned with the educational part here. And a lot of that's my passion. What I've done for the last years is built an organization called the Lawyers Assistance Program to help distressed lawyers, but also to move the legal profession into reclaiming its position as a healing profession, which people go, lawyers are healers. Many have forgotten it. So that's where I come from there. And yeah. Oh, and I guess what I can say is if I'm elected, I want an election province. If I'm elected, there are, I'll make sure there's some coffee, tea, and some for you. So enjoy them.
Thank you, Derek. I've known Derek for years, and previous to me, there was a very good recruitment committee that sort of identified some of our needs, and we really identified that we needed to have a lawyer on the board, and that's how why we asked Derek, but also this background he has, we're working with lawyers, and from the psychological viewpoint is very unique, so I think it's going to be exciting to have you on the board. The next new person is Brenda Lomax. Brenda, do you want me to introduce you to yourself?
Sure, you can introduce
Okay.
if you like, and I can add anything. Hi, everyone.
Brenda is a super GCA volunteer, user of trails. You probably see her on the island cycling everywhere. She always has. And she is just a super nice person. She recently retired, I guess, a few years ago.
Yeah,
And
3 years ago.
yeah, and moved to Galliano permanently. She's had a place here, and she's a beautiful home, which my son was involved in, so that's how I got to go. And she spent 30 years at BC Children's and Women's Health Center, where she worked in research and development in the field of clinical genetics. So really from the science background. And she also was a teacher at BCIT. And I think you still do that.
I'm just retiring now. from
Yeah.
there, too.
It's hard to retire.
It is.
You're retired, then yeah. But she kayaks, camps, backpacks, has a dog named Charlie, who you'll see walking the trails here, and volunteers in the garden. And I think we're super lucky to have Brenda have agreed to this. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the other person is Tanya here.
There he is.
Oh, there she is, Tanya. Did you want to introduce yourself? I can do it. Wow, thanks. Tanya Inglis, many of you will know Tanya. She is owns and operates the Galliano Trading Company. So she's a local business person. She was recently the part owner of the Loose Leaf Tea and Papery and Post Office. So, you know, that's changed ownership, but sort of she doesn't put this in her CV, but a little known thing about Tanya is that she is a expert on tea. She did her master's on tea, and it's fascinating just the knowledge about tea and where it comes from and the history of tea. She's the go-to person. Maybe we'll get some interesting teas at board meetings, who knows? At least we get some history of teas. And Tanya, many years ago, was a staff member at the Conservancy, very early on when we didn't have many staff members. And she was really involved in health and safety issues and developing policy for staff. And she got us, sort of moved us into being a more mature organization that thought about those kinds of things. So it'll be really nice to have her here for that. And of course, she has so much experience being such a big employer on the island. And she'll add that and her philosophy about people and how people are at the center of everything. So, and she goes to Emily's exercise classes. So that's the 3 new people that we're recommending. And we do also call for if anybody from the floor wants to nominate themselves or be nominated. And if you do, we'd like you to stand up and introduce yourself a little bit, speak about why you might want to be on the board. Or if you're too shy to do that for this year, come and speak to us and maybe next year, because every year there's a turnover of the board.
Join the committee.
And joining a committee is a really good way to get your feet wet. Like if you're a member, you don't have to be on the board to influence the Conservancy, because you can be a committee member. And our committees are where the committees recommend all the decisions to the board. So the committees are really key to our organization. So I will ask if there are any nominations from the floor this year. No? Maybe I'll ask you. Okay, that's okay, but again, I will encourage you, if you're thinking you'd want to be on the board and you don't even know what it's about, come and talk to me and I can meet with you, we can have coffee and really talk about what it involves and if it's the right fit for you. So what we're going to do this year is a little bit different than what we've done other years, because people last year asked us to do this. So we'll see if it works. Instead of just having a show of hands, we're going to vote for the board member. So everybody who's eligible to vote got a little piece of paper, and it has motion to re-elect board members and motion to elect new board So how are we gonna do this, Jesse? Everybody-
I'm gonna bring the ballot box to the front, and I'm gonna pass out pens and pencils for people that like one.
It was good. You can mark 6 names, and there are only 6 names there. There might have been another, but there isn't. So,
Thank you.
you can mark everybody or not.
Chair French.
And it will take us a little bit of time. It'll take us a little bit of time to count the votes, doing it this slow way. So you won't hear about the results until the last agenda. So you're gonna take the box around this?
I'll take the box around, you can come to the front.
Okay. And
I'll vote myself.
I'll fill the space with just a little bit of statistics that might interest you, because I'm really proud of this organization. And one thing I'm very proud of is, sort of the distribution of our board. So we have always new members coming in. We have, there'll be 3 new people, should they be elected. There's 4 people who've only been on for 1 year. 2 people who've been on for 3 years, and 3 people greater than 3 years. So we have this really nice distribution of new and old, and I think that serves us very well.
Build and vote.
That's it.
I missed it.
You never listen to me. Emily is next. Yeah. So once this is, as soon as we finish voting, Emily Gonzalez is gonna come up here and tell you a little bit about our new strategic plan. Thank you, Emily.
Yay. Yay. So everyone hears about strategic planning. Strategic planning.
You guys.
As good as doing planks. You can all do a plank right now, maybe. Oh, yeah. Everybody's done right. You've already done enough for today.
You.
Ballots in.
There's a couple new ones coming, but that's the majority. So we can always go assembly.
All right.
Sure. Here. 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 They're also on that. So we got the big bag.
I was trying to think, what do I want to do with my house? Okay, we're ready. Except for the weird big red blackness. Okay, for the next 10 minutes, I am excited to share with you that the Galliano Conservancy has a new strategic plan. This is our compass for the future for the next 5 years, from 2026 to 2030. It's our roadmap, and it's what aligns the vision with our actions. I like to think of it as the bridge between our dreams and the results. This year, the strategic plan was built by everyone in the board, the staff, the committees. And we did it to improve our efficiency and our organization, to enhance collaboration and integration, and to create a framework for learning and adaptation. We've got 120 objectives this year. We're probably not going to achieve all of them, but boy, are we going to learn a lot from setting those objectives and then seeing what happens. We also want to elevate the impact of our collective work, and that's better done when we're all really clear on what the North Star is moving forward. And so, oh, I've been talking away at my slides. Let's go to the next one. And so this year we began with a refreshed vision to better reflect where we've evolved as an organization and been evolving for a long time. And that new vision is we envision a future where caring for the lands and waters of Galliano brings us together and inspires sustainable living in our community and beyond. And our mission is the way we're going to achieve that vision. And so this mission is to protect, steward, and restore Galliano Island ecosystems so that a healthy environment, learning, and a love of nature flourish. Next slide. So the purposes are built into the bylaws, and we have not changed that for this year's 5-year strategic plan, and you'll find those on the website. Next slide. But we did update our values and to be grounded in relationships, responsibility, and reciprocity. So as I read them, I'm going to invite you to just let the words sink in, because this is really at our core. These are our core beliefs. It's our internal compass. And that's going to guide GCA's decisions and actions for the next 5 years. And so at the Galliano Conservancy Association, we believe that humans are part of nature, that we have a responsibility to steward the land to benefit all living things and future generations. Healthy and diverse ecosystems support the well-being of people and communities. And experiential learning and time spent in nature inspire care for the natural world. At the GCA, we believe that cultivating an environment of inclusion, respect, compassion, and cooperation is fundamental to sustaining our organization. And that respectful partnership with Indigenous peoples is central to healing the land and our community. Next slide. And so for the remainder of 3 or so slides, I'm excited to share with you our inspiring goals that are leading us towards the year 2030. And the goals are the final outcomes of our work. So in this image, the goal is at the end of that boardwalk at the lake. And the objectives are the steps to get to that goal. So as I mentioned, I have 120, and I know you're going to be sad to hear we're not going to go through all of them. Because after me, I'm going to pass it over to the staff. We're going to talk about the programs. And that's the real life and the heart of this work. So I know we want to get there. So what I'm offering is just the overarching vision of where we're heading in the next 5 years with our highest level goals. And so this 5-year plan, we've already taken some great strides. We've actually already achieved a bunch of our 2027 and 2028 objectives. You got a bunch of overachievers in this room with the staff, I can tell you. So let's take a look at these next 3 slides. So starting with our first round of goals, and what I'm going to do is ask those who are involved in achieving these goals from the staff, the board, and the committees to stand up for the duration of reading the goals. And here's why. Because these goals tell you, the membership, of our path forward. And maybe you'd like to join us on this journey. And as we walk through the goals, maybe notice which ones speak to you or sing to your heart. And maybe you want to come along on that particular goal, somehow contribute, somehow get involved. And so you'll see the people who are involved in making this happen, and then you can go chat with them afterwards with cookies and snacks and see if there's a way you can join in. And so I'd like to ask the board, committee members, and staff who specifically work on Indigenous relations and ecological restoration to please stand up and to stay standing as we walk through those goals that you are now responsible for achieving. So you know who to look at. Okay, here we go. So for Indigenous relations, by 2030, respectful reciprocal partnerships with Indigenous peoples will shape our programming, policies, and plans. Ecological restoration, natural hydrology and habitat are restored across the Conservancy's priority wetlands, also in forests, while also reducing wildfire risk. Restoration projects will be serving as demonstration sites for community outreach, education, and regional practitioners. And the lands are restored to a more natural state through stewardship with Indigenous peoples. So if any of that excites you, take a look at those beautiful faces and maybe chat them up and see how you might join in. Thank you very much for that one. We have two more slides, two more series of themes, the areas that we work in here on the Conservancy. And that's land protection, acquisition and stewardship, and environmental education. So again, board staff and committee members, if you could stand up if you're involved in the land committee or involved in environmental education. I see some land committee people here. You can stand up. Okay. So in land protection, more community members, we're hoping will be stewarding their lands through the GCA Nature Stewards Program. I'm a nature steward. Our property is part of that Nature Stewards Program. And you get one of these lovely staff members coming out and talking about what you can do on your own property to lift it up, to elevate it. The Conservancy conservation areas are stewarded under current updated management plans that include Indigenous objectives, and that by 2030, 30% of Galiano's land is conserved long-term through conservation areas or covenants. And finally, that policies and procedures are in place to support stewardship goals. On the environmental education side, there's an emphasis on more inclusion and accessibility, that the programs will lead First Peoples perspectives, deepening students' understanding of land use and history, and that the programs will build connections among students across other islands. Next slide. And finally, our climate action, sustainable food systems and facilities management and new infrastructure folks. I think you have to stand up to at least Good, thank you. So for climate action, we're looking to expand community members adopting climate smart practices. We're committing to being a net zero organization by 2030, and that our land management advances climate mitigation and adaptation. In sustainable food systems, there's going to be expanded programming, deepening community and Indigenous engagement in both of the forest gardens. And then with the facilities management new infrastructure, the buildings, trails, and roads in the Millard Learning Center are improved and more accessible, and that the preparations for the new MLC facility with expanded accommodations and research capacity are substantially complete. So you heard a hint of that from Nancy's opening. And so there you go. This is our path forward, and we really hope that you'll walk it with us. Thank you. Any questions, I guess? You can't ask me questions. You have to ask questions of all those people you saw standing up.
But I do want to thank Emily for, without her, we probably would not have completed our strategic plan. Been on the course, moving forward. So thank you so much. The next thing on the agenda are staff updates for projects and programs. Unfortunately, many of our staff couldn't be here today because they have kids who just got out of school and they're on camping in Montague. So about half of our staff are currently at Montague camping. A couple others couldn't be here for other reasons, but many of us are here. And so I'd ask staff to come forward, even if you're not presenting, just so people can put a face to you. So Adam, Millie, Luthien, Thomas, you can stay in your seat, but I'll get you to wave at the crowd in a minute. I don't know which of the programs we're doing first. Thomas, maybe you can, I think it's education. So neither Sarah nor Via are here today, unfortunately. But we're lucky to have Luthien Teal, who's been working with us for years now in various roles. And it's been helping with the education programs quite a bit to present on the education programs.
Hi, everyone. Can I have the next slide, Thomas? So, youth education updates. Can I have the next slide?
Take a pause. I know.
Yeah, the education team provided 58 days of programming to 845 off-island students from around Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland. Actually, I had a group from Ontario last week too. 38 days of local programming for 549 local students. You can see them. Ria's doing the puppet show there with a lot of creative things. And we had 476 overnight campers at the Learning Center. And they got to interact with the land in a lot of different creative and adventurous ways, including exploring wetlands, native plants, hikes throughout the Mid-Island Protected Network, and more through games and other learning activities. Activities like the teaching trains that we do here, as you can read from these testimonies, gave the kids confidence. It's always really fun to see them get so excited as the day goes on about teaching each other and teaching their teachers as part of it. And through restoration activities like the broom removal pictured here, they get to experience the satisfaction of a hard day's work. And our post-secondary education updates from Sarah. We had 13 post-secondary groups that came to learn and engage. Had our UVic Environmental Restoration Club came a couple times, which is on the left here, and they're a big part of the wetland restoration and forest restoration at Quadra Hill. So it was fun to have so many enthusiastic helping hands. And we have master's students from the Simon Fraser University that are visiting monthly and conducting research on sap flow in trees, comparing, I believe, water uptake between invasive and native species. So those are going to be some exciting research updates soon. And yeah, to finish off, we had a lot of intergenerational workshops, including medicine walk, forest fest, and compost workshops that brought together the community of all ages. It's our education update.
Thank you, Lucy. So our Sustainable Food Systems Coordinator cannot be here, so Dave Warren's also camping. So we have Lucy and Teal who present.
I thought about making like masks with the faces to hold. This is me. So we had berry and fruit harvest at record levels in 2025. These are enjoyed by Offside, Pilgrim, and Folia, along with education groups and through our farm stand and markets. Seed buckthorn view picks have been very successful for those brave enough to conquer the thorns. Seed buckthorn honey has been very popular with the staff list on their own view picks. We recommend doing that. And this year we are looking forward to opening mulberry and cornelian cherry as well. So stay tuned for those. Now we've set up 2 cattle panels here with hardy kiwis and grapes. And looking forward to the easily accessible picking and the extra shade. And yeah, always trying out new ways of saving water. Our sustainable food systems tech from last year, Jamie Jacobs, took the initiative to build these self-watering plants from old buckets. And it works really well for low water plants, these sub-irrigated bucket planters. You can see these in the greenhouse with peppers. Next slide. We conducted several biochar burns in 2025. And that biochar is now being inoculated in our compost and with the cashew tea. And that's been doing exciting results. It's very fun. We're gonna have more coming out next winter. Have the next slide, please. Yeah, forest garden tea is thriving. In 2025, we trialed selling herbs to Green Muse Herb Store in Victoria. That went really well, and they sent us a wish list that we will fulfill if we're able to harvest on our own needs. So it's fun to build those partnerships. In the Unit Summit Forage Forest, more and more plants are reaching the stage that they can be harvested. We're very excited about the sukulali or soapberry plants producing berries. It's very difficult to source seeds, so that's exciting here. And more restoring the balance events are being held in the Summit Forage Forest, and it's really satisfying to see community being built and shared in the space. Can I go back one slide? The preschoolers have discovered the food forest, which has been really fun. See Shelly's wonderful family on the left here. And yeah, it's been great to have them there during the weekly volunteer days, potting up and harvesting and bringing some childlike joy to the space. And our final slide, I just want to say thank you to our amazing volunteers. They put a lot of work and love into the food forest. Some of you are here today. And it's super inspiring to see community come together over shared work. There's some dedicated volunteers who come to the Food Forest Volunteer Days, rain or shine. And it's always so special to share a mug of forest garden tea and work with the plants together. And that's our update.
Thank you, Sophia. And for those that don't know, you can find Alluvion and or Sedena or other sustainable food system staff in the food forest every Thursday from 10 to 2 drop-in volunteer event. You don't want to get your hands in the dirt, you can still drop in and ask questions about plants. It's a great time to tour the garden and learn from the wonderful team that do. And now we have Adam Huggins, our very ambitious restoration coordinator who never stops.
I'm here. I'm here. By the way, thank you guys for those of you who came out and spent a little time with me in the forest before the event. That was really nice, actually.
Great.
That was a lovely time in the garden. My name is Adam. I've been here almost 10 years now doing restoration work with the Conservancy. And I started as a technician. And now we have like 6, 7 technicians running around this summer.
This year,
It's wild.
we have 8 technicians or 8 summer staff, not all at the same time, but thanks to Canada Summer Jobs Funding, we have 8 summer staff as well as many volunteer interns that are coming and going as the summer goes. This is the most summer staff I think we've ever had this year.
Pretty well, yeah. There were 2 of the years that I was here. I was one of 2.
Right.
So yeah, if you see me at this time of year, I'm usually running around with my hair on fire. So be patient with me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ecological restoration work that we've done over the past year, and then a little bit about what we're planning for the rest of this summer, because it's exciting. So the big project that we undertook this past year was restoring wetland ecosystems at Quadra Hill. As you know from last year's presentation, we've been doing some forest restoration up there as well, thinning out these Douglas fir plantations essentially to try to create more diversity in those forests. And most of that wood we left on the ground, but a lot of it we took out so that we could use it in these wetlands and try to bring these lower, wetter ecosystems back. So Quadra Hill, if you've visited, there was an old area that had been cleared and bulldozed and then farmed, and there were goats, and there was a lot of garbage left there after the previous owner left. And so, if you give me another slide, Thomas, you'll see we've done a lot of cleanup over the past several years. That these are repeat photos that our students have taken. We've removed a lot of waste and debris from these areas, all of these old agricultural areas. There's a lot left behind, whether it's pipes or fencing or what have you. We've repurposed what we can on those sites. Give me another one too, if you wouldn't mind. So, old fields that look like this. This is, I guess, probably familiar for those of you who've followed the Conservancy for a while. We've done this kind of work here at the Learning Center as well over the past 5 years in the Crystal Watershed, right? Taking these old sites that had been drained, that had previously been wetland ecosystems and had been drained for agriculture and no longer being used productively for agriculture. They were kind of marginal for agriculture to begin with because of the poor drainage. They want to be wetlands. We've been restoring those. And so this is, what was, this is what was left of that field. And if you give me another slide, we've built wetland pools all through these areas. Now we've decompacted the soils. We've put all of that wood that we thinned out of those forest stands in here to try to create more woody debris on these sites. And then we planted them up. And I have a couple more photos just like this, if you would. Thank you. So here's another shot of us taking things out and the wetlands that are left behind in the place. This is their very first year, so they're just greening up now. And yeah, there were a couple farm ponds on that site at the time, but they don't make great habitat because dugout ponds tend to be dug with really, really steep sides, right? They're just kind of, and usually there's a big soil pile right next door and they just kind of dump the soil. And so you got these steep sided ponds with limited habitat. And what we do is we retrofit them. So we pull those sides out and make shallow habitat. And then we get some material in there so that there's places for all the amphibians to hide. And this year we have, which I was amazed by, we had some ducks breeding in there and red-legged frogs breeding in there as well. Just already.
Great.
Yeah. So they become habitat pretty instantly. From like a wetland perspective, the native plants take a little while longer to grow in. So this is UVic students helping us plant and planted over 700 native species. And I wish I'd known it was going to be this dry this year, but you do what you can. And hopefully they survive through the summer. So we've been monitoring them these past months. They're actually doing pretty well so far, but we'll see what the rest of the summer has in store for us. Anyway, so that's some of the restoration work we've completed this past year, but I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about the work that we're planning for this coming summer. Beaver Creek. How many of you are familiar with Beaver Creek on the Public Beach Reserve? Right on. Most of you probably, even if you don't know the name of Beaver Creek, you've walked down it, getting down to Pebble Beach and down to Cable Bay, down the Cable Bay Trail. It's very popular. Probably thousands of people do that every year. I don't know exactly how many. It is the outflow of the Great Beaver Swamp, which is another conservancy protected area. It passes through some mature forest and on the crown land of DL60 there, which is a really beautiful example of a creek in pretty good condition. That's where these photos are from. But the lowest kilometer of Beaver Creek runs through Pebble Beach Reserve, right along the Beaver, right along the Cable Bay Trail there. You can the other side, Thomas. Thank you. So this is a photo back from the early 1980s of the Pebble Beach Reserve, right? So it was logged in the most recent, I mean, it's been logged several times, but the most recent McMillan Oak Clear Cut was 1978, and they logged right down to the banks of the creek. I mean, it left nothing. So that's the creek there. You can see the Cable Bay Trail, now just for reference, runs from the parking lot here down the old logging road, crosses right there, and then goes along down. So if you walk that trail, you walked right through this area that was cleared at the time. And yeah, they left behind logging roads, landings, ditches, all of the things. There's been a lot of disturbance at that side over the year, but it has gone through a fair amount of recovery. And so the creek itself, about 20 years ago now, in the early 2000s, was colonized by beavers, and they moved in and they built dams all up and down the creek. Does anybody remember that? Yeah, you recall that? Did you get any photos of it at the time?
No, but it was really active.
Yeah, really active beavers. Yeah, I did not know this when I first started working here. It took a while, kind of digging through some of our servers and talking to people to realize, oh, there were beavers. And at the time in the early 2000s, Keith actually mapped the location of beaver dams all up and down Beaver Creek. So these are photos from Beaver Creek. It looks very different than it looks now, right? And so they helped that system recover from pretty devastating logging, right down to the banks. If you go ahead a little bit more, Tom, thank you. So what's happened in that time? This is a little bit of a mystery. So if anybody can help me solve this mystery, I'm very curious about it. But the beavers did leave eventually. And over time, since the beavers have left, this is in 2004. That's the bridge that you cross that is now sort of partially collapsing. Since the beavers have left, all of their dams have washed out. We've been able to find some just excavating through the area, but they've all washed out. And now the creek has really dropped. It's been cutting down about a meter to 1.5 meters, sometimes half a meter in places, into the sediment that had accumulated behind all of those beaver dams over the years when there were beaver dams. And so, that's basically the same spot 20 years later. And you can see just how much the water level has dropped in these areas. Good, thank you. So it's still beautiful down in there. It's still great habitat. It's unusual actually for us in the restoration program to be working in an area like that. A lot of the areas that we go into have very limited habitat to do work in, but there's still a lot of great stuff there, a lot of great native plants. But the creek itself has incised quite a bit, so you can see the exposed banks, you can see the erosion that's occurred in a lot of these areas. And you can see that it's become quite channelized down there and disconnected from the larger area that it used to occupy, the larger floodplain it used to occupy. And so anyway, we've been looking at this. I've just been watching this for a number of years now and thinking about it and reading and trying to understand what's been happening now down there. And there's lots of great research on how creeks and streams evolve over time. They're very active systems. They don't just stay in one place. Ideally a healthy creek can move and change, and there's aggregation and sometimes there's erosion. There's a kind of dynamic equilibrium that occurs over time. But right now we're at the stage in Beaver Creek where we're basically incising, where our creek is cutting down and it's getting separated from the floodplain it used to be a part of. It's something that's happened at rivers all across North America as disturbance has taken its toll on those ecosystems. And of course, this is a small example. It's a small creek, not a very big system, but you can see it happening here just as well. We could go ahead. So You know, usually in these situations, in other places, they might they might parachute in some beaver. Famously in Washington and Oregon, that happened. We don't have to do that. We have beavers right upstream in the Great Beaver Swamp, and so they've just moved a little bit over time. I had fun with that. Go ahead. So instead of parachuting beavers in or something like that, something extreme, we're gonna do something called low-tech process-based restoration, which is a really long and fancy name for something that's very simple. It's basically going into the creek system and building very small, what are called beaver dam analog or post-assisted log structures. Essentially, there's not enough complexity in the channel to maintain it as a system that has, you know, complexity to it in terms of there's the high water table, and the condition that is sometimes referred to as anastomosing, which is a new vocabulary word for those of you, but basically a complex thing where there isn't just one central channel. You see it in some places. You don't see it very often on Galliano because most of our creeks have been impacted by the legacy of logging that we've had. But where you see it in beaver systems, if you see areas that beaver have colonized around here, you'll see this kind of very complex situation. It's great habitat. And so we have a restoration plan that we put together for this work. I think we should be publishing this part of it sometime in the next few weeks. You can see it posted on the bridge down there that we're going to be installing in Beaver Creek to replace the old collapsing bridge, which you guys have probably noticed.
Well, didn't you put a, on my judgment, pretty ugly steel bridge down there?
Oh, yes,
Actually, aluminum. Yeah, we put an aluminum one. I talked to Maureen about it.
That means it's going out, you're gonna put a new one?
No, that is going to be the permanent bridge, unless someone makes a very generous donation, then we have other options. That is the one that we can afford. But the reason it was chosen was because we couldn't put in a permanent bridge. We needed a bridge to make it safe, but the plan is to do further restoration in that site. So we needed something that could be easily moved and that could be moved into the site and wouldn't need an engineer. And so there was a number of reasons why that was the best choice, and it was manufactured here on Galliano and moved in by hand. And so it was the best option with the resources we had.
Right.
We've gotten surprisingly mixed reviews.
Yeah, it's really practical.
Maybe we can get some of the kids from the education program to make it look nicer. It's actually sitting right now on the old earthen log bridge that the logging created, and you know, that's now collapsing. So we have to actually move the bridge off, remove that material so that it doesn't collapse into the creek, and then install the bridge. So that's a piece of it. So yeah, you'll see the little brief of the restoration plan is posted there. It took a lot of people to get that bridge down there.
Yeah.
That was quite the job. And so you can expect to see us down there doing some work this coming August and September and October, just doing a little restoration work in the creek and then doing a little restoration work on the road crossings that now need to be replaced. Yeah, and I think that's what I have to say. I put more information in here, but that is too much information. So, oh yeah, right. I will also talk about restoring balance.
Thank you.
You can't get rid of me. So that's what's going on in ecological restoration. We also have a program called Restoring the Balance. That 2025 was its first year. It's co-led by myself and Bobby Joe Bassarab, who is she online right now? Bobby Joe also can't think of money to give today. This has been very exciting for me. A long time supporter of ours, the Gen Con Foundation, asked us to step up and propose something ambitious, and we came together with a lot of conversation with Indigenous community members, family members of Bobby Joe's, Penelope people, put together the things that we have really great common ground on, and created this program. And it has 3 central stewardship areas, which are stewardship of the forest, stewardship of the deer, and stewardship of the understory. And the intention of all of this basically is to do exactly what we stated in our vision, what Emily brought forward to us, right? To bring the entire community together around improving the landscape that we live on together. And so each of these core areas, we've been doing things over the past year. But Oh yeah, look how dark that is. Yeah.
Really gets the point across.
Sure, that's good.
Dark forest.
In the sunlight. So, if you go back a bit, Thomas, you guys are probably familiar on this island because of that legacy of clear-cut logging and the way that those forests were then replanted or regrew as monoculture Douglas fir forests. We have a lot of forests that kind of look like this. You can hardly see in the understory because there's no understory and they're dark, right? And so the project is intended to help those forests transition to a more healthful state over the coming decades, and at least in the next 5 years, which is the duration of our project. You can forward it now. Thank you. And so we have these practices, right, that we're going to be promoting in the community, are promoting and also demonstrating in the projects that we do. And so it's part restorative forestry, part increasing hunting, right, and bringing balance back to the deer population, and then part just education and coming together to relearn skills about how to use the things that might return to the understory if we allow them to. If there is enough light, and if there if there is enough space for them to grow without being much. And so, the hope is that eventually we get our forests towards conditions that more resemble the old growth forests that used to dominate this island before any of us were born. And that's the kind of long-term vision. In the immediate term, there's a lot of work to do. And so what we've been doing over the past year, we delivered 20 different education training events, public events over the year, which is kind of a crazy number. There were hundreds of people who took part in these. And I think for the first time in our programs, really a high proportion of those participants were Indigenous, which was really great to see. Bobby Joe has done a lot of work bringing people together and bringing people to the table who maybe wouldn't have previously attended events with the Galiano Conservancy. She's done a lot of bridge building work, and it's been incredible to watch and be a part of that. This is Marvin, that's our Restoring the Balance logo. So if you see that around, it's got the 3 different stewardships on it, the forest, the deer, and the understory. That was created by Marvin Wilson, that's him. That was during the drum making workshop that we did. Chezzy was talking about all the money we spent on contractors. A lot of that was professional fallers and training professional fallers in our community. So the reason that we need fallers is because if we want to do this forest stewardship work and restore these forests, we need people who can thin the trees. And thinning forests is very difficult skill because instead of just clear cutting, when you're falling all the trees over and you're creating this big open space, you have to selectively be able to remove trees from the forest. And that's difficult. And then also just legally speaking, to be able to fall trees, you have to be a certified faller essentially to do this work. And so we didn't have any on the island. So we've trained now 2 community members to do that as part of this program, which was, again, Bobby Joe moved heaven and earth to make this happen. And we're very excited that we were able to do so and pull it off in the very first year of the program. It was kind of one of our long-term goals, and we were able to get there right away. And the training ground was actually an area of the community forest that really needed this kind of thinning work. And so we were able to actually do 4 hectares of restorative work in the community forest and get these guys trained at the same time. That was pretty cool. We've now been talking with people throughout the region and held a workshop here and now another workshop in Comox related to this kind of forest restoration work. So we'll be kind of hopefully talking about it more. And if you're curious about it, we now have a brochure that we made.
They are behind Emily on the side table.
They have some nice illustrations in them. And they explain kind of the outlook, what we're trying to achieve, the methods that we're using. Happy to talk about it more. We've also done a lot of work on the stewardship of deer. We've held our Feed the People workshop now for the 7th time here on Galiano. And it was held for the first time on Maine. So now Feed the People takes place on multiple islands. And we held a Feed the Hunters event at the Rod and Gun Club, which was a pretty unique event too for our organization and talking about building bridges, right? And the outcomes of that were excellent. There's more to say there. And then stewardship of the understory, like I said, we've been holding these workshops, we've been holding these public events. We held a medicine walk, we held a drum making workshop. We've been working also with Penelakut elders trying to support the creation of a Natsma forage forest like garden over there, because that is one of the goals that Penelakut have expressed to us, is that they want a garden like the one that they've helped us plant here. And so that's been a big piece of what we've been doing. And yeah, it's sort of like the work of that first year and a half has culminated in the Indigenous Day celebration, which again, probably was a huge force in putting that together. And I know many of you attended, it was very successful. I had a great time. I was telling people I got beaten in the bone game by a bunch of children. It was awesome. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ed. So the updates you've heard are not even everything accomplished this past year. If we had more of our staff present, we could maybe talk about some of the other things that were worked on, but you got a good taste of it. I also want to introduce two staff members that are new to the organization this year, and that is Thomas Mertland, who is our administrator and office coordinator and has been doing the admin side of this event, which I'm very thankful for. And Millie Heyer at the back, who is our conservation coordinator, new conservation coordinator. So we'll be your contact if you would like to join the Nature Steward program, and we'll be involved in covenant monitoring and a variety of other things. So working with Adam on restoration projects as well. We were sad to say goodbye to Sophia Silverman, who left us in December for the East Coast, and she was our conservation coordinator for the previous two years. And it took a little while to fill the position, and we're very happy to have Millie with us now. The last thing on the agenda before we can.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Adam, you know, when you walk through, well, everywhere, but let's say Quadra Hill, it's kind of exciting because there's so many different kinds of techniques going on in restoration. And years ago, when we did the Pebble Beach Reserve, that first one, we had these little signs up, you know, explaining like, these are nurse logs, or, you know, and it made for super educational walks, and I know you're not short of things to do. I wonder if there's any plans for that.
Restoration and interpretive trail. Yes, there are plans. There were plans to try and restore that trail through DL 63 through the Pebble Beach Reserve, and I think it might make more sense to do it on one of the other properties that we're doing work on.
Yeah.
So yes, I have that and many other trail projects up in my noggin that will hopefully move forward in the coming years. And if people are very, very passionate about those types of projects, you'd like to be involved, please get in touch with me or the other staff, and we can see if you'd like to join a committee or a subcommittee to try and move those things forward.
Thanks.
I think it's a great
I
idea.
think it'd be great, like, just fantastic.
I think it's fair to say sometimes our ability to do the restoration work outstrips our ability to communicate and interpret it.
Obviously, yeah.
So yeah, that's always a piece of work, and I welcome help with that.
There is in the last year, one thing we didn't have any updates is the extension of the wetlands trail. Previously, before 2025, it went from Crystal Cove to the Food Forest, and you can now also walk through the Crystal Creek watershed from just past the office building on the eastern branch of the wetlands trail. We don't have signage up marking that trail on land yet, but it is on our MLC brochure. So if you haven't walked that yet, the walk along trail did go through it last year, may again this year, but if you haven't walked that yet, it's worth walking in all seasons to see the changes of the wetlands. One of the work that Adam mentioned in the Pebble Beach Reserve on Beaver Creek brought to light one of the challenges of having outdated management plans is that some of the things in those management plans were never done, and the challenges that they present were not fully understood at the time of drafting. So in our current Pebble Beach Reserve Management Plan, which is from 1998 and due to be updated, it states that we should have a Pebble Beach Reserve Management Committee that must be appointed by the GCA membership at an AGM, and that committee must approve any updates to the Pebble Beach Reserve Management Plan. So to allow us to update the management plan and see through the Beaver Creek restoration work, which was not contemplated at that time, again, because there were active beaver maintaining the creek at the time of this drafting, we have a special business motion to present to the membership to appoint the existing current GCA Land Conservation and Stewardship Committee, which is generally the committee that makes recommendations to staff on all things related to land stewardship, to be appointed as the Pebble Beach Reserve Management Committee, rather than having a different committee for one property, to use the same committee that we currently work with for all of our properties, to help oversee the update to the Pebble Beach Reserve Management Plan. So this is a motion that we will vote on with the red and blue cards. And I'm just curious if anyone has any questions about this motion or about the project or about the various committees before we move forward. Sheila?
Yeah, so just to be clear, this committee would oversee the process, but the revised, any revisions to the plan would be approved by the board, correct?
Exactly. So all of our committees do not approve things. They make recommendations. Those recommendations go to the board and then the board makes the approvals. Any other questions about this motion or the two committees in question? Suzanne?
The visibility back here is like blurred for the screen.
That's fair. So I will happily read it out. So the motion that I have put forward that can be modified if needed is to appoint the current Galiano Conservancy Association Land Conservation and Stewardship Committee as the Pebble Beach Reserve Management Committee, which is a committee mandated in the 1998 Pebble Beach Reserve Management Plan to be appointed by the GCA membership at an annual general meeting. And that committee would then oversee an update to the Pebble Beach Reserve Management Plan, which is the reason of forming it, because the management plan states that they would need to approve any updates, as well as the board, as well as, I think it's just the board then. Not me.
You need to move.
So I would like someone to move this motion, Risa, and someone to second the motion. Mike? Thank you, Suzanne. You have one more question, Suzanne?
Yes, I did.
Sorry. No, that's fine.
Well, I just am wondering, given that we'll be in the way of significant indigenous sites, would the management committee or the stewardship and land committee take those values into consideration? And will there be dialogue with indigenous?
It is in our strategic plan to make sure that there is dialogue for any updates to management plans. So 100%.
Right, critical, they weren't written at the time of that.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons to update the management plans is to have more indigenous consultation in it. And certainly we're very, very aware and of the archaeological value and cultural value of Pebble Beach and Cable Bay. And because the creek crosses several properties with several types of ownership and traditional rights, we'll certainly be very aware of that and as we go through the process. So it might be a lengthy process because of that, but we want to get started. Any other questions? Great. So I think if there's no adjustments to this motion, it was put forward, I forget my terminology, seconded, and then I think we can vote. So all in favor of passing this motion? Blue cards. Thank you very much. Anyone opposed? Red cards? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And that is, I think, the end of the motions, but we may have some results of the elections. Risa? Or I can, but. Okay.
Da-da-da-da.
So I'm happy to say that all 6 candidates for the board were elected by a landslide. And if I understand this correctly, there were some abstentions, but there were no votes against any candidates. Thank you all very much for attending and for working with us through these various society processes. And I'd love to invite you to enjoy the treats at the back of the room and the hot drinks on the side wall. And in a few minutes, our guest speaker, Dr. Jennifer Grenz, should be arriving. And we hope you'll stay for that talk, which should start at 3 or shortly thereafter. Dan? Good call. You like to report a motion to adjourn?
In conclusion of our business meeting, I would like someone to move a motion to adjourn, please.
Derek, on the ball.
Are you, Denver, and seconded by, Tom at the back. Thank you very much. Okay, I declare the AGM of the Galliano.
Think that vote on it.
We have to vote, yes. We have to vote, sorry. Blue cards for yes. Great. Oh, you can't vote with 2 cards like that. So it doesn't. One blue. And then anyone against? Red cards? I now declare the annual general meeting of the Galliano Conservancy Association closed.